Hello and welcome. This is Nigel Johnston speaking to you from the city of Dublin in Ireland. I'm very pleased to present to you part 2 of a review on emigration from Ireland to Canada in the 19th century. In this section we will be looking mainly at the impact of the Great Famine and the outflow of emigration in the decades that followed. As before, we will have some personal letters, interviews and a poem. If you can, please do stay with us for the entire programme. If you're wondering what my opening slide is, well, it's the National Famine Memorial sculpture located just outside Westport in County Mayo. The sculpture itself is fashioned in bronze and was created by John Behan. His work is an imposing and provocative representation of an Irish coffin ship, with skeletal remains hanging from the rigging. As I make my way through the material, I have important vocal assistance from Esther North and Brendan Flynn, both of whom have important connections with the Ireland-Canada Monument Committee of Vancouver. That committee have ambitious plans to erect a permanent memorial to mark the significant contribution of Irish men and women to the land of Canada. A wonderful site has been chosen at the George Wainborne Park in the city of Vancouver. It is set amongst a charming growth of 32 young ash trees, one for every county in Ireland. Let us turn our attention now to a brief explanation of the Ireland-Canada Monument design from ICM founder and Executive Director Brendan Flynn. This clip is filmed at the George Wainborne Park, the site of the proposed monument.
We're standing on the very central area of the Ireland-Canada Monument, and just where I'm standing here is approximately Galway. And in the park we will be putting a sidewalk shaped like the island of Ireland around the monument area. So you can enter at Belfast, you can enter at Dublin, you could enter at Waterford and come around here to the actual monument centrepiece, where the names of Irish Canadians will be held high in the design, and will also feature artwork commemorating what the Irish have achieved here in Canada. There's so much to talk about, but one of the items that could be mentioned here is the contribution of Irish hurlers to the game of ice hockey, which was born in Nova Scotia. That's a major feature of the game, of the monument, sorry. Yeah, we're looking forward to building the monument in the coming months, and maybe hopefully in 2020 have it unveiled here in the city. And we would certainly want to see lots of Irish people come across to Vancouver and enjoy the celebrations that'll be here in the city.
My thanks to Brendan for those important insights into the progress of the monument. For further information, why not visit the ICM website for yourself? It is broadly accepted that Irish emigration to Canada reached a high water mark during the years of the Great Famine, 1845 to 1849. As we saw in part 1, emigration was a fact of life for the nation of Ireland, and it's calculated that more than 8 million people departed these shores between the years 1801 and 1921. Those who left did so on a wide variety of ships and transport vessels, many never again to return to their native soil. Now on the question of sea transport, I wish to share with you a short video taken just across the water from Custom House Quay here in Dublin. You might be interested to learn that the vessel in this clip is none other than the Jeanie Johnston, a replica of a bark ship originally built in Quebec, Canada. The original vessel was constructed by Scotsman John Munn in 1847. She is moored but a short distance from EPIC, the Irish Emigration Museum, which today specialises in the history of the Irish diaspora and emigration abroad. For your information, here is a screenshot of their website. A quick look at shipping advertisements in the press will reveal just how strong the emigration shipping trade to Canada was in the course of the 19th century. For the most part, in spite of the development of faster steam-powered vessels in the earlier part of the century, cheaper wooden ships continued to dominate the transatlantic trade from Ireland. The next slide is a typical example of one such vessel, the packet ship Planet, going from Dublin to Quebec in May 1848. If we take the Belfast newsletter dated the 22nd of March 1861 as an example, we see that enticements to move to Canada continue to be held out to would-be Irish travellers. One advertisement in that newspaper announced to readers in block capitals free grants of Canadian land in lots of 100 and 200 acres. If you find this of interest, many other examples of shipping advertisements can be found in the digitised newspapers of irishnewsarchive.com. What we have just been looking at are commonly termed the famine memorials, located on Custom House Quay in Dublin's Docklands. These striking bronze creations are the handiwork of Dublin sculptor Rowan Gillespie, who incidentally forged a second set of memorials for the Ireland Park in Toronto. These were put in place 20 years later in 2007. His work calls to memory, in particular, all those who left Ireland during the Great Irish Famine of the 19th century. The Great Irish Famine took place between 1845 and 1849. Most commentators agree it was a watershed in Irish history. The oft-repeated figure of a loss of 1 million persons through death or disease and another million through emigration is at best a rough calculation of what was a gigantic demographic convulsion. Some of the statistics for Irish emigration to Canada during that period are truly shocking. In the year 1847, for example, a full 1/6 of almost 100,000 immigrants leaving Ireland for Quebec died either at sea, in quarantine, or in some lowly accommodation along the eastern coast of Canada. Many of the victims are now buried in the famine graveyard at Grosse Isle, and many others at different cemeteries throughout Quebec. During the famine years, forced emigration was not an untypical response by Irish landlords. Such men were keen to free their lands of their poorer tenants. The famine archive at Strokestown House in County Roscommon contains a classic example of the removal of a large impoverished community. Due to debt, overcrowding and mounting arrears, John Ross Mahon, land agent on the 11,000-acre Strokestown estate, assembled 1,490 tenants and put them on board 4 ships bound for Quebec. That was in May 1847. In the event, a large proportion of the tenants lost their lives at sea or arrived at their destination in a most sickly condition. Many died of typhus or cholera, both of which thrived in the unhealthy conditions prevalent on many ships. Getting lost at sea or shipwreck was another huge peril facing immigrants. Take as an example the brig Carricks, which left County Sligo with 173 passengers in 1847. Of those who sailed, just 48 persons made it alive to shore due to a terrible shipwreck on the Gulf of St. Lawrence. The lost vessel was one of a number of ships chartered by Lord Palmerston to carry away surplus tenants from his estate in northwest Ireland. In more recent times, the tragedy became the subject of a documentary called Lost Children of the Carricks, Defying the Great Irish Famine to Create a Canadian Legacy. It was completed this year in 2020. It was accounts and stories, no doubt, of the awfulness of the Great Famine that inspired the rather bleak memorial sculpture on the northeastern corner of St. Stephen's Green in Dublin. As you can see from the next clip, the work itself is comprised of separate inner and outer pieces, which together form a most arresting concept. It was designed by Edward Delaney in 1967. Well, some of the best letters from Irish immigrants living in Canada are from writers most skilled in transmitting a sense of occasion in everyday family life. Here we're going to take a look at a letter from Bessie Brown of Ontario to Mrs. Kirkpatrick of Hazelbank in Belfast, County Antrim. It is dated the 30th of December 1874. Once again, I'm going to call on Esther to read some extracts for us.
My dearest aunt, I wish you and dear uncle, all your household, a very happy New Year. Christmas Day was very fine and not very cold. I had only my own family for dinner, all but Stuart, who could not get home from Toronto. When the Browns were beside us, they always spent the day with us. And dear mother enjoyed having as many of her grandchildren about her as we could manage. We have not had a gathering since her death till this year. And after dinner, Stuart took his large sleigh, which he had fixed for the occasion to hold a good many, and he drove to town and brought Robert, Kate, and all their family, Louisa and all their family, up for tea. Robert brought his sleigh with as many as it would hold. Altogether we had a party of 23 for tea. The children all enjoy coming up here. And poor wee things, they were all so happy. We had games and amusements for them till between 9 and 10, and they all went home. I have 5 boys here now, 2 of Kate's, 2 of Louisa's, and 1 of George's. They are spending a part of their holidays, and you may fancy there is plenty of noise. They have just been racing round the veranda as hard as they can go and snowballing each other. I had to stop my writing to look at them. They seem so perfectly happy to get out of town, where they can make as much noise as boys like to make. We have had a very mild winter so far, and not too much snow.
There is little doubt that emigration acted as a release valve for Irish society in post-famine Ireland. In fact, assisted emigration was the means to which the South Dublin Union were to offload to Canada a group of delinquent females in 1854. According to the story, the women were dispatched across the sea and each given the sum of £1 for themselves. On arrival at Montreal, the ladies promptly went to town and, I quote, immediately got drunk. Perhaps it goes without saying that many who left Ireland were forced to balance the exuberance of a newfound opportunity abroad with the tensions of separation from close family at home. This indeed is the impression you get from a letter written by Mary Cranston of Tapleytown, Ontario. She writes to her uncle, Andrew Lowry, a resident of Ballindrate, County Donegal, in early November 1898. I'm going to ask Esther again if she will read some extracts from that very letter.
My dear uncle, I received your kind letter in due course, and was very much pleased to hear of you all being in good health and doing well. We've had a fine summer here, only a little dry. Our crops turned out very well. Well, I'm in Hamilton now, learning the dressmaking trade, but we'll be through in a short time. I'm learning by a new system called Moody System. We have all of our seeding in, and nearly all the fall plowing is done. My mother worked with the threshing machine this fall and made $80 in about 1 month and a half. Uncle, I want to know how many Canadian dollars it takes to make a pound. I think if I could afford it, I would come to Ireland next summer, if I could get anyone to go with me. But I do wish you and Aunt and family would come now. We had no apples at all this year. It was a great change since last year.
We have already alluded to the wealth of creative human talent that Ireland gifted Canada. Isabella Valency Crawford must surely be noted as someone worthy of attention. She is a lady now acknowledged as one of Canada's pioneering poets. She was born in Dublin and moved with her family to Paisley, Canada in 1857. By the late 1860s, Crawford's natural talent as a poet and writer were maturing, and within little over a decade her poems, short stories and a novel had attracted the attention of the local press and publishing houses. Her sole commercial work remains Old Spooksy's Pass, Malcolm's Katie and Other Poems, published in 1884. This book is in itself a monument to her gift for startling imagery and her sense of the mythopoeic. Now Esther will give expression to some of that creative talent by reading aloud for us 3 verses from the poem Malcolm's Katie.
Oh, love builds on the azure sea, and love builds on the golden sand, and love builds on the rose-winged cloud, and sometimes love builds on the land. Oh, if love build on sparkling sea, and if love build on golden strand, and if love build on the rosy cloud, to love these are the solid land. Oh, love will build this lily walls, and love his pearly roof will rear, on cloud or land or mist or sea. Love's solid land is everywhere.
If you managed to stay with me for the whole presentation, my thanks for that. I will finish by adding the Ireland Canada Monument Committee will very much appreciate any subscription you might be able to give, whether large or small. Donations can be accepted in a secure way on the ICM website. The proposed erection promises to be a wonderful memorial and one that will truly celebrate the large Irish contribution to making the land of Canada great. Thanks again for watching.